Hi everybody, it's KJ from Metro Hobbies Toys and Games, and today we're talking about board games, specifically family board games. Family board games are essentially things that have a rule set that are easy to learn for a wide age range, but interesting enough that mum and dad don't fall asleep. Now, board games have, specifically family ones, have taken off in the last couple of decades with the introduction of Catan and Carcassonne, but there are so many and it's so hard to make that choice about what's really going to be for your family, and it's really a personal choice, but I'm going to show you 4 that I think are absolutely incredible. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so Organ Attack, a family-friendly organ harvesting game. This is a card game which, first of all, the presentation is incredible. It comes in a little medical book that you open up until you see your simple rule set and then your cards inside. This is a special game in that it's fairly easy to learn, fun to play. It actually comes with the correct medical terminology. So I'll give you an idea. Everybody essentially has a set of organs. Now these are randomly distributed to the 2 or 4 players that are playing. You've got a pancreas, your tonsils, and I love the cartoons on these, bones, trachea. Essentially, maybe I have these cards in front of me and another player is wanting to attack. So there are different attack cards. There's an attack deck. These are the attack cards. So if I wanted to attack a specific card, I'd actually need to attack it with the correct card. So I'll give you an example. You've got tendinitis, so that you could give this to your skeletal muscles, which is an inflammation of the tendons. That would be 1 affliction to that organ. And now my organ is in trouble and I'm going to have to want to try and take care of that. Or maybe I want to give a fracture to the bones. The objective essentially is to knock out the other person's organs, and you can do that by giving their organs an affliction. 2 afflictions will knock it out. There are cards that give you immunity boost, which instantly blocks a player's hand, so stops you from actually getting the disease or sickness. There's vaccines that that last for a couple of turns. The interesting thing is necroses. That's going to attack all organs. We all know that that attacks all organs. Essentially, that is a knockout. That's 2 hits to that organ and that organ is gone. This is fun. It plays fairly quickly. There is obviously that a little bit of player elimination. As soon as you've lost all your organs, you're out of the game. But it's too fast for someone to notice. It's not going to drag on for 40 or odd minutes while you're waiting for everyone else to have their turn. I love the artwork. I love that it's fairly simple to play, and I love that the terminology is correct. I'd highly recommend it. That's Organ Attack, a family-friendly organ harvesting game. Okay, so Ticket to Ride. Specifically, Ticket to Ride Europe is what I'm going to take you through. Now, this is a board game that is good for both families and for an introduction for your board game night. Can be often known as what's called a gateway game. That basically is when somebody's not familiar with modern board games, they introduce them to something like Ticket to Ride first, and it gets them hooked. And there's a reason for that. It's a really good game. So Ticket to Ride is a networking game. And what I mean by that is you're building little networks of trains. I'm going to show you the board. It's beautiful. Now with Ticket to Ride, there is multiple different versions of it. You can get extra maps. There are only a few different base versions. So Ticket to Ride Europe is a base version. You can use the other expansions with it. The other base version that was originally brought over is Ticket to Ride. It's called just Ticket to Ride, but it's Ticket to Ride US. There's a US map. So you're building train networks between different cities of the US. I personally want to travel Europe. So I have the Ticket to Ride Europe version. So this is it. This is the board game, all the different colors. Essentially, you have your own trains. Let's say I'm red and I want to get a network. You get points for laying out just a network between different cities. You have a marker that counts those points around the board. Essentially, what you're doing is collecting train cards. So that's a red one. This is a wild. This is a fairly obvious yellow, black, white. They represent these colors on the board. So if I want to put down 3 of my red trains and I want to take them from Frankfurt to Berlin, because why not, I'm going to need to have 3 red cards in order to swap out to do that. I could use a wild card, okay? But you don't want to use all your wilds up quickly because there are tracks that take 7 spaces. So you're going to need a lot of that one color. Now to get these, there is a section that's lined up of 5, and on your turn you have a choice. You can either pick 2, this is the downward facing deck. You can either pick 2 that you can visibly see, or you can take 2 from the top deck. If you do choose to take a wild card, that's all you can take. You can't take more than 1 because the wild's just too good. There are different colored trains, so there's green ones and there's black ones, and you choose 1, whichever one is yours. The aim of the game obviously is to have the most points at the end, and you can see it track, but you might not really see who's going to win. And the reason for that is that there are these destination cards. Destination cards are really where the game happens. They've got points. So that's worth 8 points, that's worth 12 points. And essentially you're trying to make a network from, in this one, from Barcelona to Munich. Now, if you can't complete this train ticket by the end of the game, that ends up being -8 points. And that can happen not just because you run out of time or you run out of trains, it can happen because there's only one way to get from Zurich to Paris neatly. And if somebody else takes that, you're going to have to go around. So you can block somebody else's pathway, not necessarily intentionally, because you probably don't know what train tickets they have. So thankfully there's no ganging up, but it has a lot of interesting decisions and it's a fairly simple game to play. If you're wanting some more in-depth rule games, I suggest looking at Watch It Played. They have some great videos in terms of how games are played that are really simply laid out. Or if you have any questions, by all means, put them in the comments. But Ticket to Ride is a networking game where you get to make destinations from Lisboa all the way to Moscow, or you can go from London all the way to Munich. And I think it's something that engages everybody. You'll usually want to play again right afterwards. All right, that's Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride Europe is clearly the best. All right, everybody, My Little Scythe. I love this game. It's one of my favorite, well, it's based on one of my favorite games. My favorite game is Scythe. That's certainly not a family board game. It's a bit heavier. This one is special because it was designed by a fan of Scythe with his daughter, and they came up with My Little Scythe. And the producer, Stonemaier Games, loved it so much and it played so well, they actually produced it. So let's have a look at what My Little Scythe is. Essentially, it's a tournament game. Everybody has their own little characters and they're trying to earn trophies for their faction or for their team. It's a beautiful board game. So the production of these board games are off the charts. And I think that really just makes it so much more enjoyable to play rather than just a couple of different cubes. Like that, you just can't pack any more color into that without it being distracting. That's just enough. This is something that is really special about board games, in particular this one. It's the components. It's so beautiful, and it comes with little miniatures. Okay, so that's something really cool. You don't have to, but you could actually paint these miniatures. So I just want to show you them because these would be your characters. So that's the oxen, and it does actually come with a color chart. So if you did want to paint them, there's a color chart and they've got names. So for example, this is Ella and Will, and it's the Muxoxen Kingdom. You've got these little tigers, and then there's like the boars. I'll just quickly try and go through them all. They're just spectacular. The quality is amazing. You don't have to paint them, but the opportunity is there to paint them, and I think that's quite a wonderful way to connect to your board game. Now, to tell you a little bit about the game, it's not just beautiful. What you've got going on here is that you all have a player mat, okay? And that tells you what actions you can do. So let's say I'm going to play with the Muxoxen Kingdom, because why not? Okay, there's these little camps that are everywhere. These mark out the camping, the campsite. That can be, they tell you in the instructions where to set it up. So I'm going to set my camp up here in the tundra. The aim of my game, so I've got these little trophies here, and my aim is to get 4 trophies. And there are 8 different ways of getting trophies. As soon as I get 4, that ends the game. Now everybody else has a chance in the next, after I've got the 4, to then also get 4. So more than one person can get 4 at the end, and that's a winning condition. But then there are other conditions in which you then, for example, win the game. For example, if you had the most friendship points. Now, friendship points is something that you can get because you give other players resources, like these beautiful jewels, or these beautiful apples. Now, you want apples and jewels because in one of the trophies, if you have 4 apples and you get them to Castle Everfree, that gives you a trophy like that. Or if you have 4 gems and you take them to Castle Everfree, again, that's another trophy. Or if you manage to get friendship points. Again, like I said, you get friendship points by giving other characters who might be on the board hearts. If you have 8 friendship points, or, and this is the fun part, pies. So you can make pies. You can trade in 2 apples and get pies with the make action. You can also go into somebody else's territory. So maybe the boar has all these jewels and I want them. And if I go here, I can then have a pie fight. Now to have a pie fight, I have my little dial and I choose how many pies. So maybe I have 8 pies, but I don't want to use all my pies. So maybe I'll just use 4 pies. I'm also have some magic cards. All right, these magic cards represent magic pies. Maybe it's 5 pies, maybe it's 2 pies, maybe it's just 3 pies. And I can secretly add that to my board. So maybe the other player knows that I have magic pies, but they don't know how many magic pies. And I can be like, boom, that many magic pies. You know, and then I've got 7 plus the 4. So I'm only using 4 of my real pies. And then maybe they only had 5. And so that little boar would get sent all the way back to their camp. Now I'd have all their resources. But if I did that, I'd lose a friendship point. So maybe you want to do it early in the game because you don't want to be the person with the least friendship points. Because if you have 4 trophies, somebody else has 4 trophies and they have more friendship than you, they really are going to be the winner. Look, there is obviously a lot going on in this game. It's adorable. This is not an instruction video. I can't go through all the rules. As much as I'd love to sit down and show everybody how to play this game. I've played it with my nephews. I've played it with my nieces, ages 10, 8, 14. They've all loved it. It doesn't get boring for adults. It's interesting, despite it being cute. I played it at board game nights with friends, and I think they really did enjoy it. I certainly still do. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. Really fun. Clearly, I haven't painted my miniatures yet, but that's definitely something I want to do. And if you're wanting to get some good instructions, I'm going to suggest Watch It Played. They really are good instruction videos. They show you how to go through with great visuals. Otherwise, come in and visit. Ask me a question. Happy to answer. Love this board game. All right, that's my little scythe. Splendor, which is a splendid game. So Splendor has really simple rules. It is enjoyable, and it's one of the first games you can introduce someone to who have played, maybe they've played Rummikub or they've played some card games. Splendor is it's a little bit like Set Collection. There's also what's called an engine builder game. Now that might sound a little bit complex, but it's really fairly straightforward. I'm going to show you some of the components of Splendor. And I'll explain what I mean by it being straightforward. So in every game, there'll be 3 of these nobles that you pick out randomly. And they each give you 3 points. In order to get one of those nobles, you need to have the listed gems in card form in your tableau. Okay? So these are the gems. These are your resources. There's sapphires. There's emeralds, there's rubies, there's onyx, which also look like chocolate bars, so don't eat them, diamonds, and then there's wild, but the wild is gold. And then that makes sense because you can use gold as a currency and essentially that's what they're using it as. These are the cards. Now there's different level of cards in Splendor. And I'll do a little setup. You can see it on the card that you've got level 3 cards. Level 2 cards, they're also color-coded, which is nice and easy. And you also have level 1 cards. So in order to set up, there's another noble, set up a game, one, you obviously need to shuffle them. I'm not going to worry too much about the shuffling because we're not actually going to play this game. This is just for a setup. And I'm not going to go too heavy into the rules, but let's just say we go 1, 2, 3, I think it's 4. So that's the first level. And we'll chuck these to the side of the board, or the imaginary board, because there isn't actually a board. Then we've got level 2 cards. Yeah, you can see I didn't shuffle those, so let's maybe I swap that out so we can actually get to see some of the different versions of the cards. It's not all diamonds. There we go. fun fact, rifling is the best way to shuffle your cards and actually get them evenly distributed. Rifling is that one where you see people do that and flip them together. All right, so there's that one. We'll go for that one, another red. And obviously you wouldn't choose which ones you would get to put out. That's not how the game works. But for the argument's sake of setting this up, we're just gonna like get a number of different color cards out without me having to shuffle them. Alrighty, we'll put the nobles up to the top of the game. There we are. So you can probably see that a lot of the cards in the bottom aren't worth any points. These are worth a little bit more, 1 or 2, and at the top we've got 3, 4, there's even some 5s and 6s that come out. Essentially, the first person to get to 15 points ends the game, wins the game. If on your turn, everyone gets an equal number of turns, so if you hit 15 and then somebody gets one more turn after you and they get 17, they're going to win. So you're obviously still trying to aim for more than 15, but 15 finishes the game. On your turn, you have a choice in terms of what you take. So you can either pay to take a card, but at the moment I have no resources, so I wouldn't be doing that. Or you can take 3 chips. They need to be, well, they're chips, they're like poker chips, but 3 gems, all right? They need to be of different colors. So I could take a green, a black, and a red. Or I could take a green, a white, and a blue, and that would be my turn. But if I really wanted 2 of the same, right, because this diamond, maybe I really want it, I could take 2 of the same color, but only 2, I couldn't take 3. Or perhaps I really want a card and I don't want anyone else to take it. I have the option of securing the card that I can buy it later, and I take a wild, which can be used as any gem later on. And I can reserve that card for later. I don't actually have to purchase that card, but it's there only for me to purchase it if I did. Now I mentioned it was an engine builder, so I'm going to quickly sort of give you an idea of what that means. Essentially, if I got this card, and I got this one, and then let's say I had another one of the black ones. So I also have 3 points, but if I have 3 of these in my hand, I can use them as 3 permanent gems. That means that if I want to purchase this card, which is worth 4 onyx, I'd only need to give up 1 of these. And so as the game plays and you accumulate more cards, your abilities to gain cards increases, and that's what we call an engine builder. You're making the mechanism by which you play better. And this is a very simple introduction to that concept. So set collection in the sense that you're collecting a set of cards, engine building in the sense that you're making your gameplay better and that you can do more stuff. And then look, that's fairly much the rules, but if you want the 2-page rule book, go through for all the details if you have any questions. This is an easy game to bring to the table. It's good for board game night. It's good for families. Probably more the 10-year-old range, I would say, but you know, it depends on your child. Maybe they're interested in collecting gems at a younger age. But yeah, Splendor. It's splendid. It's nice. It's relaxing. And I highly recommend it. All right, everybody, that is 4 amazing family board games. Great for an evening with the family, great for a rainy afternoon. They're fairly simple to learn. Please don't be overwhelmed by the rules. The rules in these are fairly simple laid out, and you really will get a feel for them. You'll surprise yourself and you'll realize how many other games actually have the same sort of structure to them. And they are spectacularly beautiful, they're engaging, and why not play a board game than watch TV? All right, everybody, if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that like button. Links are in the description. See you.